What's up, Reapers? My name is Seth, and we are back in with some more Trove. Big shout out to Shiro Kiri today because we're going to be talking about the more recent Trove developer live stream and some of the stuff that they ended up talking about in that live stream. They also ended up talking about the Revenant rework, which I already have a video separately that's going to end up talking about that, because today we're just going to be talking about the Q&A, the questions that they ended up getting asked and the things that they ended up answering with that. So we're going to be giving away information rather than prizes, so I would appreciate if you would hit that like button. Makes the video show up in searches, or does it in this day and age? I honestly don't know with YouTube. Let's get right to it. When will the Boomeranger get a good old dev remake? So they're talking about how the developers months back, if not years ago, ended up talking how the character that was going to end up getting a rework was the Boomeranger, which we don't really need the Boomeranger to get a rework so much as we need to have knockback removed from the class and end up buffing up his damage a little bit. Look at these spears. There's not really any reason for them to end up prioritizing this class, honestly speaking, and because of that, they say that they don't have a date for the Boomeranger yet. It's on the list, but it's very low on the list, or lower on the list, I guess I should say, right? Any plans on reworking empowered gem abilities? This one's really interesting because they say that we can say we have some thoughts on gems for the long term, nothing for short term or anything that we can talk about right now, but we have some interesting thoughts on the long term. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. I'm really hoping it doesn't just mean we're going to end up getting a whole new tier of gems like we kind of suspected with U10 coming out, because that would be absolutely disgusting. But maybe they can end up working a little bit more abilities into the game rather than just having so many of them be so lackluster. I don't know what'll happen with that though. Any plans on reworking the class gems? So obviously I can even answer this and say that they're going to end up reworking the class gems whenever they end up reworking the specific character. The Revenant, for example, ended up getting its class gem completely reworked when the update ends up going live. That ends up reworking the class in its entirety. We've also seen certain updates to, the Knight had his class gem reworked, and more recently with the Draco, the class gem ended up getting the rework, which single-handedly make it one of the stronger characters in the entire game, right? So anyways, they do end up saying, we look at the class gem and subclass abilities when we look at reworks for classes. And I really gotta say, I'm really liking the reworks that they've been doing. Actually, they seem to be doing a very good job actually making these characters work at the end game. I think most of all it's because of the fact that they're not only having really good ideas towards it, towards the class development, stuff like that, but they're also really listening to a lot of feedback from everybody, which is great. Because I remember back in the day when it was like people were talking about these things that should have been reworked a long time ago. It's awesome that they're actually doing it now, even if it's a very slow process, you know? So in a way, it's kind of like we're getting new classes every time these updates end up coming out, and I think that that's a good place for this game. I think that it's really, really good that they've kind of been working at making all the classes a little bit better, because a lot of players, I felt it was kind of like a beginner's trap, where you would end up getting this class for the same amount of money or crafting components as another character, and then it was like not a good character, you know, just because of the way that it was designed. So it's cool that even if you end up getting a class that is not particularly good, it means that down the line it's going to end up getting a rework, which ultimately is going to end up making it that much better. I'm really, really excited to see what they end up doing with Shadowhunter, man. Like, will I end up maining him again? If they end up making him stronger, possibly. So they also say that can events start and end times be on the welcome screen? They said that it's been added to the tracker. Dates at the moment can be found on the blogs detailing the event details themselves. Console players don't have access to that, though, developers, so it's a little bit disappointing. Also, the events themselves are... It doesn't necessarily say it in a very specific way, but I guess I could start mentioning that in my event videos that end up tutorialing the event. I'll try to remember to actually say when the event is going to end, because otherwise, yeah, we don't really know when this event is going to end up ending, because for some reason it doesn't actually say when it's ending. Now, the welcome screen has been completely reworks in Trove Heroes, and it's absolutely awesome, but in a lot of ways it is still missing a lot of the functionality that the other menu had. So they are working on it, though. They have said that, though. Will you please incorporate a search feature to the club roster? Not on the short term, but it is added to the list for them to end up tracking that. So when they say something's been added to the tracker, they mean that they're keeping it in mind for the future, but they're not really working at it right now. So kind of cool if they actually did end up making a feature to search for clubs, because there's so many club worlds out there that you don't really know about. And did you know about this menu? Yeah, this is your liked club worlds. I have a mod that makes it so that you can unlike them, because otherwise for some dumb reason you can't actually unlike them. You have to go and unprop them yourself. It's really, really weird. Or maybe is this vanilla? I don't know anymore, dude. It's been like such a long time since I even touched this menu. But in either case, one of the problems with this menu is that you can't put private notes on them. I think if you could end up putting a personal note, just so that you actually would be able to track, like, okay, this club had this club had this, like, what is in all of these club worlds, you know? Like, it's like I don't even know anymore, because so many of them are just like all over the place. So anyways, they ended up also asking, why do the resistor costumes, or the resistors in general, have Tide Pod colored costumes? You know this meme? Yeah, it's actually been around for a very, very long time, just like dabbing, honestly. But more recently, we've seen some big popular YouTubers making jokes about all the Tide Pod stuff, and thus it ended up bringing attention to the Tide Pod colors and blah, blah, blah. And because of it, everybody knows about it, right? So when this ended up coming out, and when the costume colors ended up coming out, everyone was just saying, Tide Pod this, Tide Pod that. The developers say that it is just a coincidence. The resistor had costume, the resistor colors had, they had the colors before the Tide Pod thing, which honestly I highly doubt, unless they had these guys like months, if not like years in development, because the Tide Pod thing is pretty old. It just ended up getting recently picked up by popular YouTubers, right? So anyways, will you please add a daily outpost quest counter for quality of life? It's a good ask, added to the tracker. So I guess you'll end up being able to see the outpost quest that you end up doing out in the world, right? How do you as a team feel Heroes went so far? Anything you feel you could have done better? And the developers go on to say, there are some things we are happy about and others we will learn from, like the PS4 issues. Dare we even talk about it? Like, we're people on PS4 are still dealing with issues since Trove Heroes and crashes and stuff. So anyways, they say, particularly we like the rampages and seeing the chat go wild, shouting for invites. Definitely some stuff we'll take as learning. Yes, please, developers, work on rampages. That single-handedly is one of the coolest things that they've ever added to the game. Develop it. Work it out. Make it something more than just a fancy version of invaders that you have to end up getting every few, like 5 or 6 hours randomly throughout the day. Like, there should really be a way that you could either track the quests yourself, you know, be notified on your phone or something. Honestly, it's kind of bad that you gotta wait for random times or set up like a Discord channel specifically to talk about rampages, or just wait for people to randomly talk about it, because otherwise it's just so difficult to keep track of. And the fact that it comes out at random times means that most people can't take advantage of it, blah, 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 blah. Rampages are so cool, they should take a little bit more of the forefront as far as challenges are concerned. I don't even, who cares about dragon challenges? Get rid of those things. They're like dated and old. Anyways, the bug with the Dino Tamer's ultimate, question mark. So I guess what they're talking about is the Dino Tamer in a lot of ways. You know, you'll be in Shadow Towers and you'll try to cast your ult, and then you get stuck in this animation, like the same animation as if you're returning to the hub, and it just gets, what the sign's all weird. It just gets stuck in that, and then you have to actually swap classes and swap back in order to reset it. It's been a bug for a very, very long time. But they say that they spoke to someone internally about it just yesterday. They're going to take another look at making it a little bit less of a bug. Hopefully they can actually squish that one, because that's a pretty bad one. Will you guys address memory leaks? Apparently this one was sent out by Merc, because he's been dealing with memory leaks. Generally speaking, there's been a lot of weird bugs going on recently with Trove that I'm not sure that the developers are even aware of, because the bugs are few and far between, and they only seem to affect very specific people. So what I mean by that is there'll be a group of people that are experiencing the memory leak, whereas there are a group of people that are dealing with what I've been dealing with, where you go through Shadow Towers or go into an Uber world, and then you get stuck at the loading screen because the character is trying to log in. Now, what you can do to get around that is you type /tutorials. Shout out to you guys for actually telling me about that one. but otherwise it is a problem, and it has been persisting for me. Whereas somebody like Merc has unfortunately ended up dealing with memory leaks, where if he plays Trove for a long extended period of time, the game just starts taking more and more memory, which is a problem for a lot of players on Trove. It's not just Merc. And then ultimately ends up making it so that you have to restart the game. So if you're playing Trove and you're noticing that your frame rate's going down over time, that's not your fault. It's not your computer's fault. Trove has suffered from memory leaks since day one. So anyways, what they go on to say is, it depends on what platform you're on. Let us know where you are experiencing these. We're curious to know, as we've just done an update for crashes and memory leaks. Well, if they just ended up doing an update for that, clearly they ended up making things a little bit more broken, because otherwise the crashes do seem to be better on console, but it seems like on PC we've got more world crashes, not necessarily crashes to desktop, which I have actually experienced more of them lately than I have in recent months. Anyways, when will the next Extra Life pack come out? Obviously, that's going to come out when the next Extra Life event is going on Gatherer's Day, which increases the ore drop rates. How does that affect the iridescent dragon fragments? Quite obviously, you're going to end up having twice the chance of actually getting the iridescent dragon fragments. You're not going to end up getting more of the dragon fragments itself. You're going to end up getting the fragment more often. Okay, so that's pretty much what they end up going on to say with that. And then finally, last but not least, are the item description text supposed to be stretched out? So more specifically talking about what we just saw right there 2 seconds ago, where it was all stretched out like a type rope. And they say, nope, there's a bug. They're not supposed to be stretched. They're looking into it. And that's already it. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Very much appreciate it. Hope that you ended up enjoying this video. Pretty cool stuff that we've got kind of coming around the corner. I think that it's really nice that they're actually talking about these things instead of, oh, we're not giving any spoilers. Like, it's nice when they give us hints and talk about these things, because it means that we can actually get hyped about it, right? Most of all, I'm sure most people are going to be hyped about the Revenant because they haven't really shown or talked about anything with PvP. Maybe it'll end up being something epic, or it's just going to end up being something else that comes out that we grind and falls to the wayside. Time will tell. Thanks for watching, though, folks. Very much appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. And if you want to support me, you can always sponsor me. Check the links in my description for my merch store, as well as Gawkbox, which is a way you can donate to me for free. Sign over and stay epic, everybody.